Hello and welcome to your first official art assignment. Make sure you've turned in your old one where you've done a picture and you turned in, show me that you know how to do that. All right, so what we're gonna do today is we're gonna make a color wheel. And we're gonna be using some materials to do this. This is gonna be a multi-week project. So we're gonna do part of it today, and we'll do part of it next week. It may take up to 3 weeks depending on how long things take to dry and how much video Google will let me use. All right, so you're gonna need 2 pieces of white paper. You're gonna need a pencil, you're gonna need some scissors, you're gonna need some glue, you're gonna need some watercolors. The ones I use are the cheapies from Crayola that you can get at Walmart. I bought mine at Kroger, and they work really well. So right now they happen to be on sale. So it'd be something to get before all the school supplies are gone and their prices go back up. I also have some water for the watercolors. All right, so our first thing is going to be to prep the paper. The reason why we have 2 pieces of paper is because one is too small, so we need to put these together. So that's where the glue comes in. Okay. Now, this is one of those cases where too much glue becomes a huge problem. So one of the problems is we're just gonna put enough glue for about a finger space. We want them to overlap, and I'm only gonna put very little, a very skinny little line. Okay. Then I'm gonna close the nozzle, and I'm going to use the tip of the nozzle to thin out the paint so it doesn't ooze, or the glue, excuse me, not the paint. See, I'm going ahead, see how it's thinning out? It spreads it out, and that way it won't ooze. Then I'm going to overlap the papers. Make sure the edges line up and the glue isn't sticking out. Run my finger along. Make sure it's glued real well. Make sure there's no glue oozing out from the side. Okay, there's a little bit here, so I'm gonna just take my finger and kind of wipe it off. Then I'm gonna set this off to the side and let it dry. It'll take probably an hour. If you wanna be safe, you can wait a day and then do it. That's what I did or am going to do. Okay, so set that off to the side and let it dry. All right, now I happen to glue one of these together yesterday, excuse me. So now it's all ready, it's dry. Next is we need to do a square. So instead of measuring, there's actually an easier way. I'm gonna turn my paper. I'm gonna fold it over diagonally here, like this. I gotta be very careful about lining up my edges. Try to get it as lined up as best as possible. I'm gonna put a nice crease in it. Okay. So it looks like this. Then take your pencil and carefully trace the edge, nice and slow, just like so. And open up, and now we have our line to cut on. Take some scissors. Take your time, stay on the line. Do not throw away the extra. Do not throw that away. Now you can see I missed a little bit, so I'm going to go trim that. All right. Next, keep this right here. We're going to use that in a minute. We're going to use this. What I'm going to have you do is fold it in half. Again, important to line up your edges as best you can. A nice crease in it. Open it up. Fold it the other way so that you're going to have 4 boxes and a couple of triangles. Okay, so you can see a fold going right down the middle here and a fold going right here. And currently I have a fold going down diagonally. These 2 are the important ones. The other ones will kind of disappear after a while. Set this off to the side a little bit. I'm going to use this piece. I'm going to turn it this way. We are going to make our color wheel using ice cream, specifically a ice cream pop. I can't think of the right word, but one of these. So what I'm going to do is, for spacing, to figure out how wide it's supposed to be, I'm going to use my hand. So I want the widest part of your hand. If you have a really small, skinny hand, which some kids do, and even some adults, ask one of your parents to use their hand so that you have a little bit more space. Notice my thumb is not in it. Okay, so then I can just use just to kind of give it a straight line. So this piece on here. All right, next, what I'm going to do is draw myself really close to the edge. This is going to be my ice cream bar, like that. It's big upside down U. You want to curve the ends a little bit and have it come straight across. And then you want to put the big stick on it. We don't want to make the stick too skinny because it might rip off while we're tracing it. So the thicker it is, the better it is. Roughly, how I figure it out is you could even use your finger as a guide. Use your thicker finger for that. Okay. Next, we need to cut this out because we need to be able to trace it. Okay, so there's my piece. And if you make a mistake, you got more space to do one. So just keep that off to the side just in case. All right, now my stencil, and I got my piece of paper. Now we're gonna do some quick tracing and drawing. All right, first thing you wanna do is put a little dot. I'm gonna make it kind of big so you can see it easier, but a dot right there in the center where the folds are all crisscrossing. That is so you could line up your stencil. So I'm putting my stencil right there. I'm right on the edge of the dot. I'm not covering the dot up, I'm on the edge of the dot, so I can still see it showing through. And I'm right on the fold. So the fold is like going right through the middle of my ice cream bar. Like that, so the fold's going right through the middle. Then I'm gonna flip it upside down. Do the exact same thing. So I'm going to be able to see the dot just a little bit. Carefully trace. It's best to try to keep your pencil straight up and down while you're tracing so you don't go underneath your paper. This paper is a very flimsy stencil. Like so. Then what I want you to do is go back in and add in the line dividing. So this will be popsicle stick, this will be just the popsicle. Okay, next. The next part is a little bit trickier. We need 2 on each side. So it still needs to touch the dot, and it should overlap this fold, and it will overlap a little bit of the popsicle on the side here. We're not following anything with these as diagonal folds. They were only there originally to do the square. Otherwise, they're not going to be useful. Okay, so you see it overlaps the fold there and overlaps here. And I am going to trace it. Okay, I'll need to figure out which one of these I want on top. So right now, I want that little part erased. I'm going to put that, and then I'm going to erase this little part right here. fix a couple little errors. There we go. So I'm going to put my next popsicle right here. It will overlap this popsicle and this popsicle. Okay, again, I need to figure out which one's going to be on top. So I want this one to be on top. Erase in here. And then I'm going to make sure I put my line for the stick. Turn it around, and I do the same thing. Now, be careful, because this is right where I have mine glued, so the pencil can get stuck if I'm not paying attention. So, again, I'm going to line it up with a dot. It overlaps just a little bit here, and it will overlap the fold just a little bit. Remember, if you're drawing it light, to get it right, and then you can always go back and make it darker later. Okay, again, figure out which one you want on top. So this time I want this guy on top. Just retracing some lines so I can see him better. Okay, got one more trace. Okay, again, you can see it's lined up with a dot. Now, if you have your mom or dad help you with the stencil holding, that is totally normal. It's okay, it makes things a little bit easier. Let's see, I want this guy on top this time. And let's see, I have it on top there. So it goes, well, this guy's supposed to be on top, so he goes right there. Now I can see my stencils. Okay. And there, your tracing is almost done. Well, the tracing's done. Now the drawing has got to be just one more thing to do. We are going to add a melted area. So it's just a simple wavy line. We do not want crazy zigzags everywhere. It's just a simple wavy line. Again, when that glue area, just be careful, like that. Okay, let me just clean up some extra marks here. All right, so this part that I'm going to show you is then the last thing we'll do for this lesson, because it takes a while for this to dry. And that will be painting the primary colors. So there are 3 primary colors. You should remember them from previous years, but if you don't, they are red, yellow, and blue. Okay, so I'm gonna just use the brush, and we're not gonna paint them in order. We're actually doing them where they need to go, but they're not gonna be like red, yellow, blue here. It'll be red, yellow, blue. So, and actually, before I paint, I just didn't realize this, if you put a little R, and then the next one will be O, a Y, a G, a B, and a V, that will help with keeping the colors straight where they need to go. So R, O, Y, G, B, V. Okay. All right. So we're gonna do the red, we're gonna do the yellow, we're gonna do the blue. That way these will dry, and then you'll have room to do the other ones later. Okay. Okay. So really easy. I'm gonna get my colors ready. So the first thing I'm gonna do is put water in the yellow, and put some water in the red, and I'm gonna put water in the blue. The color I want to use first is gonna be the lightest. That way my water stays cleaner longer. So in this case, the lightest color would be yellow. So I kind of stir it a little bit to make sure it's nice and working well. There we go, that yellow's looking pretty good. Then I'm going to paint yellow. Now, because this is thinner paper, it will soak into the paper pretty good, so you gotta be careful. Remember with watercolors, if you run out of color, then you add some more water. And this is another reason why we're only doing so many colors today, is to give the paper a chance to dry and the colors don't run together. Like that. Okay, so my yellow, you can see it's kind of soaking into my paper. I'm going to do the red next. In fact, what I'm going to do is I'm going to erase that R so it doesn't show up. I forgot to erase my Y, and you can see it. Hopefully you will remember to erase it first. That way the letter doesn't show through. Even the teachers make a mistake once in a while. There's the red. All right, last is the blue. And again, before I forget, and there we go. This is where we're going to leave it for today, just to let it dry, because you can already see it starting to bleed out of the space a little bit. So I want to let it dry before I do anything else. Alrighty, that's it for today. Next week, we'll deal with the other colors. It will take a couple of days to do that one as well, because we'll have to do letting some dry between sections. All right, enjoy.